So I'm joined by Elle Perry. Elle is the arts and culture editor for Daily Memphian. You've been there for about almost 7 years now.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I think about arts reporting in Memphis, I think of you immediately. I read your visual arts exhibition previews.
Nice.
And it really keeps me in the know. I was kind of craving a place to find that in Memphis in an easy, accessible way. So I had to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for reading.
Yeah. So as a arts and culture editor, what drew you to wanting to cover the arts?
I think I've always been interested in arts. I'm pretty much a generalist. So visual art, music, film, literature, theater, dance. I feel like I have a broad base of knowledge. So I like to kind of really go into rabbit holes and just dive in when I talk to folks. I can kind of pinpoint two things that I think are kind of pivotal as far as me and art. And one was in third grade, I had a speech therapy teacher, and she lived in Germantown. And the area where I grew up was probably the opposite of that.
Yeah.
But she took me to see the Nutcracker. And
Classic.
Yeah. That's something that I think my taste has kind of broadened more so from the Nutcracker. But if you offer me the opportunity to see the Nutcracker, I'm going to be like, yes, let's see the Nutcracker. And then in college, probably the kind of cliche of the broke college student, I was interested in art, but I found myself going to a lot of openings. It's there's art, and there's also wine and cheese, and it's free. And I can
cheese. That's my favorite part.
I can just hit up, I can go to 5 art shows in a night, and it's fun. And
Yes.
So those are really, the things that I kind of think of as starting points. I've covered more things than art, but I kept finding my way back to it, and I found that I really enjoyed talking to folks who are making art about their process and what they created, and just we're seeing the end product, but how did that happen?
Yeah, I find that very fascinating, obviously, because I have a whole show about it. What, when you're talking with artists, what have you learned about artists? If you could kind of summarize a big takeaway from talking with artists.
It's interesting because you think there's a standard experience, but there's not. I talk to a lot of folks, and one of the questions I ask is, when did you know you were interested? And for a good number of folks, it's always when I think of myself as a writer, it's I've always been a writer. But in a lot of cases, it's their parents and their family members who, that influence comes from them. But then I also talk to on a regular basis, folks who are no, nobody in my family, knew what I was doing, or had any kind of interest in this. I just found my way to it. But I always like the human part of the stories. And I think what comes across a lot, I found, is just the folks who were wanting to put their experiences or these feelings or thoughts into the work they create. It's like a conduit. It's medium. It's if I'm making a song, if I'm making a painting, if I'm writing a novel, it's coming from someplace, and I want to put these feelings and thoughts and just these things that are in my head. I want to put this into the world,
So I love that you have a Substack. Things I saw this week, and you launched it 5 years ago, and I've noticed that you're very consistent with it. How do you keep being consistent? Because blogging and putting out weekly content, that's hard on top of having a full-time job.
Yes. I've tried really hard to be consistent. There was a long time ago, I used to have a fashion blog, and that was a really fun experience for me because it allowed me to do things that like nobody's gonna pay me to do this, but like I'm really interested in this. And it became a point of where I started out, it was like me asking like, hey, can I cover your event, to people invited me to things, and it was like, I really wish I could, but I don't have time to go to this, you know, like I have like work or something else. But it's just something that I guess, I don't want to say obligation, I do feel kind of obligated to. The fact that that lives kind of more on the aggregation side does help with that. I have got prompted to actually like be more expressive with it, so I have tried to do that. But yeah, there's a couple hundred people in there, which I'm always surprised by, like, oh, y'all are still here.
Right. Yeah. I would you consider yourself a curator?
To a certain degree. So the reason why the newsletter came about is kind of funny, because I do this in my job. I also am like a digital producer at work. Like I have like kind of slash as far as my job duties. I always find myself somehow
I'm the same way. I started out as a journalist, and I wrote my articles and then took my own photos, social media,
Right.
and then did layout sometimes.
this is not a bash, but it's like people find out like, oh, you're good at this, like let's get you to do this. I was like, okay. So the thing that was really pivotal, so there was a publication, it was the LA Times. They had this article about hot chicken is everywhere, and it was like, so everybody immediately saw this headline and was like, oh, hot chicken is stupid. But the actual story that this headline didn't really showcase well was it was about like the story of Nashville hot chicken is like, is a black family in like Nashville, and like the kind of lore is it's like a scorned lover who makes the husbands, I think, like chicken really hot to get back at him, but he likes it.
Oh,
and he's like, yeah,
revenge backfired.
Yeah. And so like the family, I believe the guy's family ends up making like, I might have some of these details wrong, but essentially like it was like a revenge thing. But like the LA Times story that was about hot chicken is everywhere was about this black woman who was related to that family who originated it, had like a food truck that was hot chicken in LA, but wasn't really getting out as much success as she had hoped. Meanwhile, the folks who were kind of copying the hot chicken were like going like gangbusters. So like it was a really like a good story, but like if you saw the headline that was like hot chicken is everywhere in LA, you're gonna be like, well,
Yeah, that's boring.
And so I don't really use Facebook anymore, but when I did, that was kind of how I would share articles and kind of excerpt like, this is why you should read this. This is why this is interesting. And so the newsletter became a way of me doing that. So like, okay, on this face, you might not actually want to read this, but this is why you should. And so it became like an aggregation, and just, I read too much and there's always random stuff. So like, here's like 5 things, you know.
So does that help you hone your observation skills? What are you looking for? Or does it just come to you when you're out there consuming media?
I know it feels like, to me, it definitely helps as far as like, because at work and stuff, I like part of my job is writing headlines, and like this is the social media text and that kind of stuff. So I do think that helps with that. It's like, why would I read this? Like, because you as writer, you like, I spent 6 months on this story. Like, clearly I want somebody to read it.
Please read my story.
So like us choosing the right photo and choosing an appropriate photo, but like also like not making it being cheap or sensationalized, but also like this person is telling a really compelling story. So what is interesting enough that I can get somebody to engage with it in a way that respects them and respects the writer, you know?
Yeah. How do you get those interesting stories out of people? Because sometimes when you interview, it can be difficult to get to the core of something. How do you draw that out of people?
It's always funny because people apologize for being long-winded, but I almost always prefer that to the person who's like, yep. And you're like,
I love long. I mean, it kind of sucks to transcribe.
Yeah.
But there's always something in there.
no, it's like, please go off on a tangent because otherwise this is going to be super dry. I feel like over time I've talked to enough people, I've figured out how to like, okay, you got to draw it out some more. And like, and sometimes it's like, it is what it is. Like, there's not a whole lot that you can just make materialize. But in some cases, there's like, you can kind of almost see the twinkle in their eye and be like, okay, let me keep talking to them about this. This is what they want to talk about. Like, this other stuff, no. And so it's really just over time, just repeatedly interviewing folks and just like, okay, like, they're not enjoying this. Like, how can I make this experience better for them?
Yeah. Were you a curious kid growing up? Were you creative? Like, what do you think led you to journalism?
Definitely nosiness. I consider myself an introvert, but this gives me a way to go talk to somebody. Like, you could be like just total random person, like, hey, I'm gonna ask you all these personal and intrusive questions, and like have a reason to, and not feel like a weirdo about it. Even though sometimes you do feel like a weirdo, like, oh, I just, being like good about it and not terrible or anything, but just it does give you the kind of freedom and power to just have conversations with folks where maybe if I was in a different line of work, I wouldn't feel like empowered to go talk to somebody I didn't know, as like not as easily. But you kind of have a mask and like, I'm a reporter. Just like
Yeah. I liked when I was a reporter, I liked being the one that listened rather than talked, because I always consider myself, I wasn't the best talker. So I really honed in on my listening skills. Have you found yourself to be a good listener? How do you develop listening skills?
I'm a good listener. I think people pick up on it because I'm the person that like randomly meets the person there and they're telling me like all this personal stuff, and in my head I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, okay, clearly you trust it. I'm not gonna just go tell everybody, or like you feel a comfort level or something that you're just like, look, let me just get this off my chest. But I definitely think so. I think it's something that I work at too, where if I feel like I'm interrupting too much, where I'm like, okay, like just, I do definitely think that is something that, yes, I think I am good at listening to people, but I also, want to just not rely on that and actually put some thought into it and be like, okay, just hear them out and not try to insert yourself too much. Or I am kind of wary of like, well, this happened to me, and it's like, yes, and maybe they do want to hear that, but kind of gauging whether or not that's something they want you to be relatable to them, or just like, no, I just want you to listen to me. I don't care what you I don't care.
Yeah, I get that. When you're going out, you were talking about you love going out to exhibitions, like you'll hit 5 in a night. What kind of what are you looking for when you're going out to exhibitions? What do you hope to see?
That's a good question. There's specific things that I really like. I like texture a lot. So if something looks like that, I can go up to it and it feels like tactile, that's something that's attractive to me in like a piece. And I don't know where that comes from, but I definitely feel like I was the kid in the store that wants to touch the marshmallows and stuff like that. And like, it's like, no, you can't touch it. And like, obviously don't touch it in the artwork, but like that kind of, when people joke and say intrusive thoughts. Yeah. Yes. It's like, so kind of that, I actually like abstract a lot. I think figurative is beautiful, and I get a lot of joy out of that. But a lot of times I do like when things are much more kind of open to interpretation versus just like, this is a painting of this, which is, obviously people have put a lot of time in the craft and are very skilled. But sometimes I do like the kind of really abstract kind of messes with you, like turn your head to the side and look at,
like the surreal kind of things. Yeah. And you've been a lifelong Memphian, right?
I've lived here mostly. I am from Memphis. I've almost the whole time I've lived in Memphis.
Yeah. And seeing all this art from local Memphis artists, do you think Memphis has like a certain type of, I don't want to say brand, but do you feel like there's like a theme that you see that keeps recurring in Memphis art? Or is it just like completely different all the time?
I think I see different sorts of things. I feel like maybe I want to generalize like color, like brightness, like a lot of bold colors used. Like I don't necessarily see a lot of super muted works, and maybe that's kind of a through line, but definitely different types of like younger, older, backgrounds different, but it's always, I don't know, like we mentioned the art roundup, like there's so many different, like total different pieces that folks have up right now, which is exciting, or that are coming up. That's exciting to me.
Yeah. Are there any galleries right now, new or old, that kind of excite you that you think are putting out really fresh work?
I do like Sheet Cake. That they are cycling in artists, both locally and non-local, but every month or two we have a new big exhibition that's up. I would encourage folks to see the college galleries because I feel like those sometimes are under the radar. U of M has several spaces where you can see art. Obviously, Rhodes does, CBU does, but just like, hey, there are like some really interesting and thoughtful works that are up. I haven't seen this in person yet, but Artifacts is a Black-owned gallery in Whitehaven. It's Jamon Bullock, who's a local muralist, and he does live painting. I haven't gone because like the opening dates have kind of coincided with like just kind of booked and busy almost.
Yeah, there's a lot of gallery openings. People don't realize.
Yeah.
There's always, every weekend, there's like something opening.
He has a Black History Month one, and it's local and local artists, I'm pretty sure, but there's some different artists that are up. I do like the idea of like the museums are always going to have like really nice works. Crosstown always has good shows, and they're big shows as far as like spatially. Obviously Brooks Dixon, they have things that are worth your time. They have nice programming. But David Lusk, I would say, because I feel like sometimes just because of the location, it's kind of tucked away a little bit. Like, hey, there's some really cool works that are coming in here. I probably named all of them versus what you asked, but
no, it's good. More exposure for them, right? And we were talking about the Brooks, and I noticed that you did a talk with Andrea Morales. Is that how you pronounce it?
Andrea.
How did you get involved with the Brooks and involved with that talk?
They just asked me. Honestly, I think because I'm a journalist and like I cover art was why they asked me specifically, because Andrea is a photojournalist, and I think also because I'm a Memphian, and it was something that was cool about that exhibition is in those big museum spaces, sometimes especially because it's photography, so like the places and the people are Memphians or Memphis places. And just thinking about that, I went to something recently that had a lot of photographs that were places that don't exist anymore. And so that was something that was in the back of my head a lot, was that photography as chronicling history, archival kind of things. So her work is really beautiful and artistic and thoughtful, and just it's nice to have different perspectives when you're looking at photography and obviously visual art generally. But I really enjoyed it. That was, I think, my first time doing it. It was cool because I got to do like the docent training for that. So like, okay, which people do obviously, but I hadn't personally done it. So they're like, if you want to do the docent training, I was like, yes,
sign me up.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And so that was a cool experience.
So why do you think it's important for you or anybody to go out and consume art? Why is that a thing that you have in your life?
I think we need things that make us question things. We need things that are beautiful and invoke joy. We need things that are thoughtful and provocative, and just like, I don't know where the quote came from, but you probably have heard it, where the person's like, I don't want people to just have like the retail art in the walls. I want them to have like weird stuff and like unusual, bright, just that somebody made, like something that I would like to get across is that art can be approachable. Like, I know, and there are reasons, obviously, historically, museums and other places where folks are like, this is not for me. And I think there's a lot of work that people are doing to combat that. And I think in some cases there's more work to be done. But even like Sheet Cake uses the Art Money platform, which is like, hey, you can pay in payments. And, you know, like, something that I enjoy in spaces where, like, yes, there might be something that's $30,000, but here's something that's $100. And like, I just from personal experience, I know for some artists, if you talk to them, they will work with you and like purchase, like, hey, I have $50 right now. Can I work out something with you? You know,
just
like,
get it out of the house. Yes. And do you have a creative practice? Do you do anything outside of writing?
Well, I'm doing stuff outside of journalistic writing, which is kind of interesting. So my background is journalism, but I went and got another master's degree because that's what people did in the pandemic was going back to school. Mm-hmm. And that was, so it was data visualization, right? But there is still some kind of like, there's a little art in here, but like, my undergraduate minor is English, and that was a really kind of hard kind of shift whenever I started taking the journalism classes and the English classes, because the English professors were like, why are you writing like this? Mm-hmm. Like, this is not a paragraph.
You can't use AP style, and
you only got one sentence here. This is not a whole paragraph. And I'm like, yes, it is.
It gets the point across, you know.
And so the things that I'm working on now are a novel and a script. And so it's kind of hard right now just because I feel like I'm using 100% of my brain for work. And so like, you can't use like 50% of your brain for the not work stuff. You have to use the 100% of the brain for that too. I don't want to be like robotic, but for the journalism stuff, there's things that work. And so like, I don't know, I get teased sometimes because like, I could be having a whole conversation and still write my story because I know like the lead needs to be this and the direct quotes need to do this. And like, I need to get to this by this point. And like,
it's a formula.
It is pretty much a formula. Like, I feel confident to say I'm a good journalist, I'm a good writer, but sometimes I can autopilot, and I can't do this with the new mediums yet because I'm not there yet. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I've made a lot of progress, and part of the progress for the future of that is to like put stuff out and to like share stuff more than like the kind of close-knit group or people that have seen and critiqued and given me feedback and read. And so, yeah, I guess the progress now is the showing the work, but and also, and not to like cheapen it, but to get to a point where I can more so like, okay, it's kind of more routine now and not something that I always want to put the amount of effort into it, but where it feels kind of more natural to me versus like, oh, what should go here versus like direct quote goes here. Let's kind of do that.
Yeah.
The other stuff, I more am a listener or a viewer. Visual art, I really just like to take in music, really love to just take in the other mediums too, which I feel are kind of fuel it in different ways. Like I saw Collage Dance do Their Eyes Are Watching God, which is their ballet adaptation of a novel. And so me thinking about like, oh, this is the part where, spoiler alert, this happens. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That's really interesting. I have to know what your novels and scripts about, or is it under lock and key for now?
I can tell you the novel is, so one of the books that I feel very much like life-changing to me, there are two. One is The Warmth of Other Suns, Isabel Wilkerson.
I read that this year.
And like, I love that, especially as like, oh, this is like true, but it reads just like a novel. It's like, you can do that kind of. That was like mind blowing, but also just the stories. And then The Color of Law, which is about they kind of go together, which is kind of depressing. You're talking about redlining and things, but like these people are trying so hard to like break down these walls, and they're just like, oh, people wanted more just societies, but like there's always somebody that was like no, and it was like, oh my god, it is kind of heartbreaking. But just those ideas. So there is kind of a Great Migration sort of feel, based in like the 70s, 80s. So like kind of drama. This is the novel. Some comedic, but this is more talking about female relationships, talking about movement and just women. The script is comedy, so it's it is about female relationships too, but more of kind of reinvention, and it's present day based. So just learning about the present and it being important. And I'm not really giving you like the elevator pitch exactly.
No,
but
it's
like
good.
they're totally different from each other. One being, and like, to be honest, I feel like the novel in my dreams would be a film, but I am interested in it living in like pages first, and just having that book, and then like, yeah, we can adapt it into a film. Awesome.
Yeah.
But like that is something that is kind of, I don't know. There's kind of some more exploration work to do there, but there's like many pages that are like written. And so that's what I'm excited to explore. Yeah. And I think all these things kind of go together. So me seeing these art shows and exhibitions and things are like seeing the bright colors on the walls, and seeing the ballet, and seeing the concerts and different things like that. Really just feeds into like my personal things.
Yeah, I agree. I like reading artist biographies. Like, those are some of the most interesting stories to me. That's how I'll get plot points and things like that.
Yeah.
Are there anything from media that kind of that just like keep you writing?
I am trying to read more craft stuff, because I have a writer friend who's like, that's part of the work. You have to read about like how to do the things.
Yes.
And not just read like, I'm going to read like another novel. Like, no, you have to actually read like how to write the novel as well. And so that's a part of it. I am still in a phase where I do want to just read other things and just see how folks approach things generally. And it doesn't have to be in the same medium. I'm working on a book, but watching a film and being like, oh, okay, like I could do that with this person that I'm writing about. They're kind of like that. I could do that with them. And so I've looked at some scripts and things just to see. I do like, even though I know the advice is the book, right? But I do like to kind of break down like, this is how they made this film. This is how they made this book, and just think about how it applies to the thing that I'm working on, or doesn't. Like, oh, I didn't know you could do that, because like the book kind of has dual protagonists, which is probably more painful to as on the writer side, but I'm like, no, I really want to have different points of view.
I love that.
And so thinking, and so like okay, somebody has done this before, so you like look.
Yeah, there's books with like 7. I mean, so many different points of view.
Yeah.
Like while you're reading these craft books, are there anything that you implemented into your writing routine, or do you have like a writing routine?
I'm working on that. So
It's hard.
I'm supposed to have been reading what is it, The Artist's Way?
Yes.
Yes.
I could do a whole episode about The Artist's Way.
Okay, so I have a friend who's academic, and we were like, we're gonna read this over the summer, and I'm sure she's read it. And I got to a certain point, and I just need to build more of the daily practice. I've been trying to do some social media and stuff a little bit less, and like kind of redirect, because like you're spending so much time just kind of scrolling and just endlessly kind of not really paying attention to anything, but like, oh, that was an hour I was just looking at people's, outfits, which I like outfits, so it's okay to look at outfits.
Yeah, it'll give you inspiration for characters, and it's art. You're consuming art when you do that.
Yeah, we're gonna fashion is not included in the mindless scrolling because we need a look.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but if you had all the resources, all the time in the world, what would be your dream project?
Ooh, wow.
That's my favorite thing to ask people.
Dream project. I always find myself like learning something new and kind of going really deep into it. Part of my interests are things of local interest, and it doesn't have to be, it can be fictional. It doesn't have to be like nonfiction and things like that. But I do want to have more things that kind of tell the story of the area in different ways. I mean, it can be fiction, but just like a documentary, like a movie, like a book, but just, it's really, so I saw the movie that has SZA and Keke Palmer on One of Them Days.
I want to see that.
It's very cool. I'm not going to give you any spoilers.
Yeah.
But it's very like an LA movie. You come in and you're high up and you see palm trees and they zoom into like one of those characters at work, but it's very much situated in this specific place, and I really like works that do that. I interviewed somebody recently who basically is like, when things are really specific, they're universal, and I like that. Like I like at the Grammys, Doechii was like, I'm from Tampa. There are other people who are as talented as me in Tampa, like me, come to Tampa. And so like I feel that way about Memphis, like just that more projects that are from, I mean, and it can be the general area, but that kind of showcase it in various ways. I think that's really cool because you feel like you know the place when you see it on the screen, and just like, oh, like I want to do that for Memphis. Like that has been done, but like I want to do that personally for Memphis. Like I want to make the movie in the book where you're like, oh, I feel like I've been there. I've never been there. Like, okay, I get it,
Yeah, I would 100% watch that. That sounds really cool. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Think you are super cool.
Thank you.
I look forward to your articles on the Daily Memphian all the time. You really are doing really good work on making sure art is visible, and you don't just do surface level. You show all the different galleries, and so
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.